Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So for today's video, I'm going to be filming my 3D look and review on the Jaclyn Hill Dark Magic palette. So this is one of 4 palettes from her Vault collection in collaboration with Morphe. I've already done my review and 3D look on the Armed and Gorgeous palette and also Ring the Alarm. So this is my 3rd review for the Vault collection, and obviously the next one will be Bling Boss. But today we'll be talking all about Dark Magic. I feel like there's a lot to be said about this palette. We have a lot to cover. I got comparisons for you guys as well. So with that being said, if you guys are interested in hearing my thoughts and seeing 3 looks on this one palette, then just continue watching. Okay, so to get started, I'm just gonna quickly give you guys some product info on these palettes just in case you haven't seen any of my other reviews on the Vault collection. In the Vault collection, there are 4 palettes. You can get the whole Vault for $49 US or 75 Australian dollars. You can also get the palettes separately, so if you only see one palette that you want to get, you can buy them separately. The single palette is $15 US and it converts to 23 Australian dollars. You get 10 shadows in each palette and also a mirror as well. Let's just jump straight into it and talk about the formula and the shade selection with the Dark Magic palette. First off, with the Dark Magic, you will only get 3 shimmers and the rest of the 7 are matte. I personally think that's a good selection of finishes, especially for such a dark palette. I think it is better to have more matte than shimmers. I feel like with all the palettes and the selections that she has done with the finishes, I feel like there's always a good amount of matte, a good amount of shimmers to create well-rounded looks. So if this is the first review that you guys are watching of mine for the Vault collection, pretty much I got a good batch. I love the original Jaclyn Hill palette. That is one of my holy grail palettes, and I personally feel like they work exactly the same. The original palette, it just blends out so nicely. It's pigmented, it's smooth, it's just easy to work with, and it's one of my favorite eyeshadow formulas, so I think the original palette is really great. So to me, the Vault collection works perfectly fine for me because I personally feel like they work as great as the original palette. Some people might not agree, but that is just what I'm working with. With that being set aside, formula is pretty good and it is consistent. Obviously with different shades, they are formulated differently, so some shades might work a little bit better than others because certain shades will need certain, I guess, ingredients or chemicals or whatever to create that certain shade. The only shade that I had an issue with was this one, which is the transition shade. To me, I just found it to be a little bit patchy. It was a little bit harder to blend out. Honestly, I don't know if it's the actual shadow or if it's the shade color, because these cool tone transition shades, they all look bad on my eyes. They all look patchy, and when I was applying this shadow, it was really discouraging because it's the first base that you put on and I'm like, holy crap, like this is not looking good. But once I put on the darker mattes, these darker mattes, they blend out like a dream. They are so easy to blend, and for mattes they actually swatch really nicely as well. So yeah, that's the only problem I had with the mattes. As for the shimmers, I think these are stunning shimmers. They are just so unique to me, really, and I know I keep saying that a lot, like this shade is unique, this shade is unique, but I really do think this palette, honestly, very unique, because first, I don't have a dark forest green like this in my collection. I'm gonna compare it to the one in the Jaclyn Hill palette, but it's very different, and you guys will see that. Divergent, beautiful cool tone shade. Like all the looks that I created with this palette, like I'm so obsessed with them, and one of you guys asked me to do a natural look with this palette. You could. All I literally would do for that look is put all over my eyes and maybe define my lash line with Mojo. For this palette, it's very glam, nighttime glam, you know what I mean? It's just very dark and sultry, and I love this palette for that. I think this blue Busted is a really unique color. Like literally when I say I don't even have a color close to this blue, I don't. And if you guys are familiar with the Luxe lipstick in the shade Getty, exactly the same shade but in an eyeshadow, like that shade to me is so unique. So I love this shadow. If you are going to use this palette, I would say 100% do your eyes first. Out of all the palettes, this palette has the most fallout. So yeah, I don't really know what else I could really say about this palette. Like all around, I did like it. 1 out of the 10 shadows were a little bit harder to work with, but for the most part, I had a really good time creating my 3 looks and I really do like all the 3 looks that I created. So that is just my little review on the palette. So now we're gonna move on to the comparisons, which I think will probably be a little bit more helpful. So the first shade that I want to compare is Trickery, which is the metallic green from the Dark Magic palette. And we're going to be comparing this shade from the original palette on the last row, the 3rd shade. So you will see that side by side, Trickery is truly like a deep forest green, like a poison ivy. But with the one from the original Jaclyn Hill palette, it has a little bit, I guess, like silver reflex, and it's not as like a true green. If you were to wear Trickery on one eye, the original one on the other eye, from far away, I guess nobody could really tell, honestly, but there is a difference. And then the next shadow that I want to compare is Potion from the Dark Magic, and the shade that I'm going to compare it to is Top Secret from the Armed and Gorgeous palette, which is also from the Vault. This was a really weird one because I personally feel like they look really similar. Like, I would consider this to be a dupe. I feel like Top Secret is maybe like a little bit darker, but the tone and the shade, just everything, it looks exactly the same. And then the next shadow is Inside Job from the Dark Magic palette, which is like the dark forest green. And the shade that I'll be comparing it to is from the original Jaclyn Hill palette. It's on the bottom row and it's the 4th shade. So again, honestly, when it's swatched, these two look very similar. They are both of like a very dark teal. The one from the original Jaclyn Hill palette is a little bit more deeper and it has a little bit of green in it. The one from the Dark Magic is a little bit more on like the dark navy blue side. And next up, I want to compare Mojo from the Dark Magic palette. And the shadow that I'm going to be comparing it to is from the original Jaclyn Hill palette. It's on the bottom row and it's the 5th shade. This kind of shadow, you know, to me, even if it's a dupe, it's okay because this is kind of like a necessary color to create a good look. Almost same undertone, same depth, same intensity of darkness. Okay, and then the last shadow I want to just compare are all the blacks. So I want to compare Temptress from the Dark Magic palette, of course. This black is kind of like a very dark navy black almost. It has like a little navy tint to it. It does have little specks of like blue glitters, and that reminded me of the shade Stallion from the Colourpop Perception palette. I usually don't compare it from other brands, but when I was swatching it and playing with it, I was like, wow, this really looks like Stallion from the Colourpop palette. But when I swatched it, they are very different. Temptress is like truly a black with like a navy tint to it, and Stallion is a lot more navy and it has a lot more glitters in it. That was just like my thought process when I did see this shade for the first time. I thought like, wow, this was very similar, but I swatched it and they're not. And then I also wanted to compare it from the black in the original Jaclyn Hill palette. So I personally feel like Temptress from the Dark Magic palette is a much better black. When you are swatching them side by side, you can see the huge difference. Temptress is almost like a black charcoal, and then the one from the original palette is kind of like an eyeshadow black, you know what I mean? So yeah, that was my review and my comparisons. Hopefully you guys found that helpful and it wasn't like too repetitive, because I feel like I was, but hopefully you guys found it helpful. And with that being said, we can move along to the swatches and the 3 demos. Okay, so to get started, I'm going to be taking the shade Shh, and this is going to be our transition shade. I feel like it's going to be really hard for me to keep saying shh, but I mean, that's what it's called. But anyway, I'm going to put that straight into my crease using windshield wiping motions, and I'm slowly going to bring that up towards my brow bone. Like I mentioned in the review portion, I did say that I found this shadow in particular to be quite hard to blend out. So you really just want to take your time with it and just know that like it might look a little bit patchy in the beginning, but once everything else goes on top, I can assure you the whole look will come together. So now I'll be taking the shade Puff and I'm going to use this to blend out the edges and just to further blend out that transition shade. I felt like using Puff really helped it out and made it look a little bit more blended. And now going into the shade Potion, I'm going to put this all over my lid first. I'm going to place that on my lid and slowly bring that up towards my crease, blending it towards the transition shade, but we just want to get that initial pigment first. And I personally found like Potion was quite easy to blend out. I heard a lot of people were having issues with Potion, but to me, it just worked like any other shadow in my opinion. And now I'm going to be taking the shade Inside Job and doing exactly the same thing, but just focusing it mainly just on my lid space, not bringing up too high into my crease, but we still want to bring it up so it could blend into Potion because we want to get that gradient smoky eye. So just focus most of the product on the lid, and then what is ever left on your brush, just slowly bring that up. Now I'll be using the shade Trickery, and I did use the shade Wet by the way, but we're just putting that right on top of Inside Job. This is just going to give the eyes a little bit of glitter and a little bit more metallic shine. It just looks a little bit more interesting, not, you know, so plain Jane. I just put that pretty much all over my eyes and just took a clean blending brush to blend all of that seamlessly together. And now for the lower lash line, it's going to be very simple. Just going back into Potion once again. I'm going to run this from the outer edge of my lower lash line right into that inner part, really dragging this down and smoking it out because we want this to match with the eyeshadows on our top lid. And then taking Inside Job once again, I'm going to use this to define that lower lash line, just pressing this color right underneath my bottom waterline and slowly blending that into Potion. Taking the Colourpop Creme Gel Liner in the shade Teaspoon, I'm going to use this to tightline my bottom waterline. I think this just completes the look, makes the whole look so cohesive, and I love how it matches the eyeshadows. And that is the completed look for look number 1. It's very simple and very easy to do, but it looks so like technical and it's just so glam. I love how the green makes my brown eyes pop. I love it so much. For lashes, I am wearing the Boudoir Lite from House of Lashes, and for my lip color, it is the NYX Cosmetics Soft Matte Lip Cream in the shade Stockholm. For look number 2, we are still going to be using Shh as our transition shade. So just doing exactly the same thing. It's the same as Demo 1 and it's going to be the same for Demo 3 as well. So you guys know the drill by now. Moving along, I'll be taking the shade Mojo and I'm going to start putting that on the outer third of my eye. And I'm sorry that this part is not focusing on my eyes and it's like focusing on my ear, but you can kind of see what I'm doing here, and I've done this technique so many times, but just stamping most of the product on the outer edge, and what is ever left on my brush, I'll slowly bring that towards the inner part of my crease, but I really want that darkness on the outer corner first. Quickly just taking the shade Puff and doing exactly what I did in Demo 1. This is the shade that I used just to kind of tidy up everything to further blend. Now I will be taking the shade Diversion, and I'm also using the shade Wet as well. I'm going to start placing that in the inner third of my lid space and slowly bringing that towards up my crease. And you can see when I'm bringing up towards my crease section, I'm making it very soft and blended. I'm not going to like create a harsh line with my brush, kind of like a cut crease. I just want it to be soft and smoked out. You know what I mean? And now just taking the shade Shh, and this is going on our bottom lash line. Just like how I normally would define my lower lash line, take a lighter shade first and then define it with a darker shade afterwards. And we'll be taking Mojo, and this is going to be that darker shade that I'm going to define my lower lash line with, really pressing this underneath my waterline. And just taking a pencil brush to connect that shade with the outer corner of my lid on top. That way we can make this look a little bit more rounded. Using my NYX Cosmetics liquid black liner, I'm going to use this to line a very thin line on my top lash line. This is going to help my falsies blend into my real lashes. I'll be using the shade Temptress, and as the liquid liner is still a little bit wet, I'm going to smoke that out with this shadow. And I'm really just smoking out on the outer edge, and I really like how this looks because once our false lashes are on, it makes the lashes look very natural. And that is the completed look for look number 2. I love how this one turned out. I actually really like how the cool tones looks against my skin tone, and I like it against my eyes. I think this technique is very easy, but it's still very glam. And I guess out of the 3, this one is more of the natural one. But for lashes, I am wearing the Demure Light from House of Lashes. And for my lip color, it is the ColourPop Luxe Lipstick in the shade What's Your Sign? And for look 3, like I said, we'll be using the same shade as our transition shade. So I'm just going to go ahead and just speed up this part. Using the shade Mojo once again, we're doing something very similar to the second look, I guess, but I'm going to start putting that on the outer third of my eye and just slowly bring that towards my inner crease. And we really want that depth. I really need this to be dark since we are going to be cutting that crease. I would need that contrast between the two, so making sure I'm getting that dark color into my crease. Taking the shade Temptress, I'm doing exactly the same thing what we did with Mojo, but just using a smaller brush and a little bit less product because Temptress is a lot darker, and when a shade is darker, it's a lot harder to blend out. So I'm just taking a very little amount on my brush and doing the exact same thing, making sure I'm getting that in the inner crease. So taking some concealer on the back of my hand, I'm going to use this to cut out my crease. So we're only doing a half cut crease, so I only need the concealer to be on the inner third of my lid space, and that's where I'm putting it here. And at this point, I've done so many cut creases, I kind of know where to take it up to, but you just want to take it beyond your natural fold of your crease, just a little bit higher than that, so that way there is no transfer. Now using the shade Power Cut, this is going right on top of that concealer. I did use this shade Wet Still because I want the most like metallic high shine. I'll be using the shade Busted. This is one of my favorite shades from the whole palette, but I'll be using this to mesh the metallic and the matte together just right where they meet by just stamping them and swiping, and this is going to do all the work for you. Still using the shade Busted, this is going on our bottom lash line. I absolutely love how this looks on the bottom lash line, and just putting this all over, it really brings out the color on our top lid and it makes everything look cohesive. Going back into Temptress, I'm going to use this to define the bottom lash line, and as you can see, Temptress on top of Busted, it looks a lot more like of a dark navy. It really brings out those tones, so I love that lower lash line combo. I'm taking my Sigma Longwear eyeliner pencil and I'm going to use this to tightline my bottom waterline to finish off the complete smokiness. And this is the completed look for look number 3. I love how this one turned out. You guys know how much I love a half cut crease, but the tones in this, I just think it just goes so nicely together. And the shade Busted, that is seriously the star of the show. I don't have anything like the shade in my collection, but for lashes, I am wearing the iconic lights from House of Lashes. And for my lip color, it is the NYX Cosmetics Soft Matte Lip Cream in the shade Abu Dhabi. Okay guys, that is going to complete my video for today. That was my review, my comparisons, my swatches, and also my 3 demo looks for the Jaclyn Hill Dark Magic palette. Comment down below your favorite look out of the 3. What do you guys think of this palette? What do you guys think of the looks? I want to hear your feedback, so let me know down below and we can chat about it. That is pretty much it for today's video. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. I love you and I will see you in my next video. Bye!